good things take time. Rome wasn't built in a day, but what if it was? Imagine if one day an army showed up to build Rome overnight. They finished painting the buildings, making the roads, erecting the statues of great men like Caesar and Augustus, and then the next day, they take down everything that they have just built. In fact, they keep repeating this process over and over again for years. What would people think who witnessed this strange occurrence? I imagine they would consider those builders insane or, at the very least, inefficient. And this is kind of how a lot of people approach their goals, their relationships, and even their fitness. They want results yesterday. But the truth is that most things worth having take time to build. The same is true with your physique. You can't transform your body into a masterpiece in 3 weeks. In fact, I do want to believe that any program should get you to sacrifice the quality of your results for the sake of speed. Because when you truly transform your body, you'll be able to enjoy the benefits of that physique for years to come. And the only way to do that is by building the right habits and being consistent with them. And that takes time. It's easy to lose faith when you see others making progress faster than you are. So this video is going to be about something called suffer now, soar later. We will discuss why sometimes you have to suck at the beginning so you can be better at the end. For starters, we need to understand that there's a huge difference between skill acquisition and performance, and here's why that's important. Let's say that you want to become an Olympic powerlifter. You probably do and want to start off with the heaviest weights right away, because you won't be able to move them for very long. In this case, you start with lighter weights so that you can gradually work your way up over time. That's skill acquisition. Now, when it comes to performance, you will eventually reach a point where you need to lift heavier weights in order to continue making progress. So you start competing at meets and testing yourself performance. It's not enough to simply acquire the skills. You also need to be able to express them. Now, this principle isn't limited to weightlifting. It applies to anything that involves some sort of skill acquisition. For example, if you want to be a guitar virtuoso, you first have to learn how to read tabs and chords, how to strum, and pick the guitar. And once you've acquired that skill, you can start performing in front of other people. Or, let's say you want to become a writer. First, you have to learn how to write, which means learning grammar, vocabulary, syntax, etc. Then you can start writing short stories, blog posts, novels. The same thing applies to training your body. First, you have to learn how to perform basic exercises correctly. That's skill acquisition. Once you've developed that skill, you can actually start working on your physique and adding more advanced exercises. That's performance. Now, you might say, yeah, okay, but how does this relate to the idea of suffering? Well, when you first start out, you won't be very good at performing these exercises. It's simply part of the process. Just like with anything else in life, your skill level will follow this kind of bell curve. When you first start out, you're going to make slow progress. But then, as you continue doing it, your progress will accelerate and you'll start to improve quite rapidly. That's the point where you feel like you're making the most progress. But then, as you keep improving, you'll start to hit plateaus. That's the point where you feel like you're not making any progress. But then, if you keep pushing through and you keep trying, you'll eventually get past that plateau, and your progress will accelerate again. And that's the point where you feel like you're making a lot of progress. The reason why this happens is because you constantly developing new neural pathways and strengthening your neuromuscular connections. This allows you to progressively overload your muscles, and that leads to growth. However, you have to understand that this principle doesn't apply to everyone equally. If you're just getting started, you will probably have to put in more work than someone who has been training for a while already. It's just part of the deal. You can't expect to get the same results as a seasoned trainer just by copying his routine. You have to develop the skill first. Most people don't understand this, so they quit before they've even given themselves a chance to succeed. Don't be that guy. Embrace the suck. Embrace the fact that you won't be very good at first, Embrace the fact that you'll have to spend hours practicing and perfecting your form before you can start seeing real results. Embrace the fact that you won't be able to lift as much as the guys at the gym. Do all of that and then watch what happens. You'll be amazed at how far you can go. Second, you have to understand that you can't judge your progress by someone else's standards. We live in a society where everyone is obsessed with being the best and being number one. But guess what? There aren't that many number ones. There are thousands of number twos, hundreds of thousands of number threes, millions of number fours, and so on. This means that if you're not ranked first, you're probably in the majority. Does this mean that you shouldn't try to be the best? Of course not. But it does mean that you shouldn't compare yourself to people who are ranked ahead of you. Instead, you should compare yourself to the person that you were yesterday. Every time you look at yourself and realize that you've improved just 1% from the day before, you should celebrate that. Every time you look at yourself and realize that you've improved just 1% from the day before, you should celebrate that. Don't focus on the people who are ahead of you. Focus on the people who are behind you. I promise you, you won't regret it. Finally, third, you have to understand that the hardest work often comes at the beginning. This is because when you first start something new, you have to learn how to do it. And learning takes time and effort. Once you've learned how to do it, then it becomes easier and you can work on other things. Let me give you an example. When I first started programming, I had to spend countless hours learning different languages and concepts. I didn't know anything about it, so it took me a while to get good at it. But once I learned the basics, then it became easier. I could work on more complex projects, and eventually I could even build my own programs. The same thing happened when I started YouTube. I had to learn how to film and edit videos, and I had to learn how to market myself. It took me a lot of time and effort, but once I learned how to do it, then it became easier. I could focus on growing my channel and eventually I could hire a team to help me. The same thing will happen with your training. When you first start out, you will have to spend a lot of time learning the basic exercises and figuring out how to do them correctly. But once you've learned the basics, then it will become easier. You can focus on building muscle strength, and eventually you can start competing. I know it sounds cliche, but the bottom line is that hard work does pay off. However, you have to be willing to do the hard work, and that often requires suffering. Embracing the suck. If you're not willing to do that, then you should lower your expectations accordingly. In other words, do you want to complain about being stuck at beginner level when you're not putting in the effort to improve? So embrace the suck. Enjoy the journey. Trust the process and remember that all good things take time.